My sister-in-law removed my name from the pitch deck at 6:30 in the morning. She deleted my firm's logo from every slide, cut my technical notes from the appendix, and had herself listed as creative director on a project I had spent 4 months designing from scratch. When I arrived at the venue that afternoon, she was in the lobby in a charcoal blazer, and the kind of calm that means someone has already decided how the night ends. She handed me a lanyard with my name on it, spelled correctly. That was generous of her. "I put you at table 7, she said, "right by the bar. You'll be comfortable there." I thanked her and went to find the AV coordinator. I'd been planning this for 5 weeks. My husband's family built Hartwell Development Group out of a commercial strip acquisition his father made in Brentwood, Tennessee 30 years ago. By the time I married into it, the company had grown into a mid-sized regional developer with projects across Greater Nashville. The kind of family business where the org chart and the family tree are the same document and everyone is polite about it at Thanksgiving. My sister-in-law had been involved since before her brother took over as president. She sat in on board meetings, had opinions on everything, and had a particular way of absorbing other people's contributions into her own narrative so gradually that nobody could ever name the exact moment it happened. I'd watched her do it to vendors, to contractors, even to my husband once or twice. I just hadn't been the target yet. I'm a licensed landscape architect with my own firm, Western Design Group, and a portfolio that includes a public park renovation in Franklin, Tennessee, that won a regional design award and got written up in 2 trade publications. That work is how I built my professional reputation. It's also, as it turned out, how I kept it. The Monroe was my idea on a Tuesday night in October at the kitchen table, while my husband stress-ate leftover Thai food and talked through a pitch problem he couldn't solve. Meridian Capital, a real estate investment trust out of Atlanta, was expanding into Tennessee. They wanted mixed-use development, residential above street-level retail, community green spaces, the kind of walkable design that attracts anchor tenants and generates foot traffic that makes investors confident. Hartwell had the construction track record. They didn't have the design identity. I pulled a legal pad across the table and started sketching. By midnight I had a concept. By the following weekend I had a preliminary site plan. 6 weeks after that, my name was on a formal consulting contract, and the Monroe was a complete proposal. A north courtyard water feature with a native plant corridor, an ADA-accessible promenade, a rain garden stormwater system designed to satisfy Nashville's increasingly detailed site runoff requirements. My firm's logo was on every page. My sister-in-law was put in charge of coordinating the showcase event where Hartwell would present the Monroe to Meridian's acquisition team. My mother-in-law suggested it, said she had the right energy for hospitality. Nobody asked how I thought my work should be presented. I should have said something then. I've thought about that, but I'd spent 3 years learning how decisions travelled in that family, and I knew pushing back early would just reframe me as difficult before anyone had seen what I was actually capable of. So I waited and I watched, and I was wrong to wait as long as I did, but not for the reasons they thought. The first warning came at a family dinner at my mother-in-law's house. My sister-in-law was describing the showcase to a cousin, who'd driven down from Louisville for the weekend. The venue, the catering plan, the design board she was having printed. She said, "I've been working on this project all year," without any hesitation in her voice. I was 3 feet away. I set down my fork. "That's my design," I said, pleasantly, just stating it. She turned to me with an expression I'd seen before, warm on the surface, dismissive underneath. "Of course, you did such a wonderful job pulling your ideas together. I just meant I've been handling the business side of things." My mother-in-law said, "More wine?" and the conversation moved on. In my car in the driveway afterward, I opened my phone and made a note. The date, what she said, the exact reframe, pulling your ideas together, and who was in the room. I didn't know exactly what I was building yet. I just knew I wasn't going to let things happen without a record. The second sign came 2 weeks later, when I tried to access the shared project drive and discovered my permissions had been downgraded to view only. My sister-in-law's response to my message was a string of heart emojis and something about streamlining the file structure. When I went to the Hartwell office and asked the project coordinator directly, she looked uncomfortable and said she'd received an email directing that all showcase materials go through my sister-in-law going forward. "Who sent the email?" I asked. She hesitated. "Your mother-in-law." I thanked her and walked to my car. A week after that, my sister-in-law called what she described as a venue walkthrough meeting. Herself, my mother-in-law, and the event coordinator. I assumed it was to discuss the presentation logistics. When I arrived, they'd been there for a while. My sister-in-law was showing them redesigned boards she'd mocked up without telling me. My technical work reframed into something that looked more like a lifestyle magazine feature. The data was buried. The visual identity was hers. "We went for something more accessible," she said when she noticed me looking. "Your original format was very technical. That's a lot for a cocktail hour crowd." The event coordinator nodded. My mother-in-law sipped her coffee. "Meridian's acquisition team includes 2 engineers," I said. "They're going to ask technical questions." My sister-in-law smiled. "That's exactly why we want you available. You can be a resource if anyone wants to get into the weeds." She tapped the new boards. "But this is the face of the evening." A resource. 4 months of professional work, reduced to a backup option for people who wanted to get into the weeds. "These look great," I said. "Thanks for setting up the meeting." My mother-in-law looked almost surprised. In the parking garage afterward, I sat in my car for a few minutes. Then I emailed myself a copy of the original consulting contract, scope of work, deliverables, my firm's name throughout, and forwarded it to my attorney, a woman I'd worked with on a lease issue 2 years earlier, with a note that said, "Keeping you in the loop on a situation, no action needed yet. I'll reach out if that changes." She replied within the hour, "Understood, I've got it on file." That reply settled something in me that nothing else had. I called the venue's AV coordinator the next day. His name was in the vendor contract, which I had a copy of because I'd been CC'd before my access was revoked. I introduced myself as the landscape architect on the Monroe and asked whether a technical backup file could be stored on a separate drive, in case the presentation needed to be supplemented with detailed spec documentation. He said that was completely standard, asked me to send the file in advance. I sent my original presentation, every design drawing, every technical specification, my firm's name in the header of every slide. I also sent a short email to the Meridian lead representative, the acquisitions contact whose information had been on the original proposal. I mentioned Clearwater Commons, noted my role on the Monroe, and said I looked forward to connecting at the event. Professional, 3 sentences, nothing dramatic. He replied the next morning. Said his team had reviewed Clearwater Commons during their due diligence, and that his engineers had specific questions about the stormwater management approach. Said he'd find me at the showcase. I read that email twice, then I forwarded it to myself with the subject line, "On file." The night before the event, I told my husband. Not everything, just the shape of it. The access change, the new boards, what my sister-in-law had said at the venue meeting. He was quiet for a moment on the other end of the phone. "What do you want to do?" "I want to show up," I said. "That's all." "Okay," he said, "I'll be there." The venue was a renovated warehouse in the Gulch. Exposed brick, 15-foot ceilings, the kind of industrial lighting that makes a commercial pitch look like a gallery opening. About 60 people. City planning contacts, local developers, 2 trade press, and the Meridian Capital team. 8 of them, dark suits, notepads, clustered near the bar when I arrived. My sister-in-law was already working the room. She had my design boards displayed along the back wall, my renderings, my material palette, my plant selections, with no attribution line on any of them. I walked the full perimeter before I did anything else. Found the AV booth in the back left corner. Confirmed the backup drive was loaded. "On your signal," the coordinator said. "Thank you." My mother-in-law intercepted me near the drinks table. She looked composed in the way that requires effort. "I'm glad you came," she said, in a tone that suggested she wasn't entirely sure that was true. "Just please let your sister-in-law lead tonight. She's worked hard on this and we don't need any complications right now." I looked at her. "What kind of complications are you worried about?" "You know what I mean, Hadley." "I actually don't," I said, "but I'd be happy to hear you explain it." She didn't. She patted my arm and moved away. About 40 minutes into cocktail hour, I was standing near one of the design boards when I heard my sister-in-law talking to 2 of the Meridian reps. She was good at it. Charming, easy, the kind of presence that makes a room feel smaller and warmer at the same time. Then one of the reps gestured at the boards and asked how integrated the creative team was with the financial modelling side. Whether the design people understood development economics. My sister-in-law laughed softly. "This was all kept in-house. I find outside contractors rarely understand the business context well enough to drive the vision." I was an outside contractor. She knew that. She'd signed the contract that said so. I picked up my glass and walked to the other side of the room. My husband arrived 7 minutes before the formal presentation. He found me with his eyes across the room, looked at the boards, looked back at me. I gave him a small nod. He stayed where he was. My sister-in-law took the microphone at 7:20. She was excellent at the opening, welcomed the Meridian team, thanked the city contacts, made a joke about Nashville's construction timeline that landed cleanly. The room warmed up. She clicked to the first design slide. My work filled the screen. The north courtyard aerial, the promenade elevation, the native plant corridor detail. In the corner where my firm's name should have been, Hartwell Development Group, Design Division. No design division existed. I was the design. The Monroe represents a new chapter for Hartwell, she said. A community-first approach that I've been driving internally. The belief that commercial development and genuine public space don't have to be in conflict. She moved through the slides with confidence. She had studied them. She could describe what she saw. But describing what you see and understanding why it was built that way are two different things, and the gap only shows when someone asks the right question. The Meridian lead rep raised his hand. Quick question on the north courtyard drainage. Your team mentioned the system handles significant stormwater volume. Our engineers flagged a grade differential between the courtyard and the east retail pad. There's a 2-foot elevation change that creates runoff complexity. How does the design account for that? My sister-in-law paused. The system was designed with flexibility to accommodate. Can you walk me through the grading plan specifically? How the water moves from the courtyard to the retention zone? I'd want to give you accurate numbers rather than. What's the retention capacity per storm event? Silence, 2 seconds of it. In a pitch meeting, that's a long time. The Meridian rep wrote something in his notebook. His colleague exchanged a look with the person beside her. I looked at the AV coordinator, one nod. The screen shifted, my backup file loaded. My original presentation appeared, my name in the header, my firm's logo, my design annotations in the margins, behind my sister-in-law, who turned to look at it and went completely still. 4,200 gallons per storm event, I said. I walked from the edge of the room toward the front, not fast, not slow, the pace of someone who has been waiting for exactly this. The system uses a split drainage approach. The primary bioswale runs along the north edge and handles roughly 60% of the load. The secondary channel routes the remainder through the rain garden buffer on the east side. That buffer is positioned specifically to address the grade differential your engineers flagged. The bioswale liner is recycled HDPE, rated for clay-heavy subsoil. We compared 3 membrane options before specifying it. I can get you the full comparison report. The room was quiet. The Meridian lead rep looked at my name on the screen, then at me. Hadley Weston? Yes. Clearwater Commons in Franklin. That's mine. He leaned slightly forward. Our engineers flagged that project's stormwater integration during due diligence. It came up specifically. He looked back at the screen. You designed the Monroe? My firm held the landscape architecture consulting contract from the beginning. The design work, public space programming, grading plan, material specifications, ADA compliance framework, that came from my team. My sister-in-law said she contributed in a supporting. Her consulting contract is on file, my husband said. He was standing in the centre of the room, not near the front, not raising his voice. He didn't need to. Western Design Group has been the landscape architect of record on this project since October. The work on those screens is Hadley's. That's what this pitch is built around. He paused. I should have said that clearly at the start of the evening. That's my error. My mother-in-law stood near the back wall with her arms folded. My sister-in-law had stepped back from the microphone. The room held still. The Meridian lead rep looked at me. Can we get time with you and the technical documentation? I have everything with me, I said. We moved to a side room, his full technical team, 2 engineers joining remotely on a laptop, and me with my original project files and the kind of patience that isn't performed because it doesn't need to be. They asked everything: drainage calculations, AD clearance dimensions, the reasoning behind specific plant species, the construction phasing plan. I knew every answer because I had made every decision. That's how knowing works. When we came back out, dinner had started. My sister-in-law had left. My mother-in-law was still there, near the back, but she didn't come near me for the rest of the evening. The Meridian lead rep found me by the door before he left. We'll be in touch with you directly, he said. I want Western Design Group on the project documentation. I'll make sure you have everything you need, I said. My husband and I drove home with the windows down. Nashville in early June has a particular quality at night. Warm air and street lights through Spanish oak trees, and the way the city hum drops just enough that you can hear yourself think. I watched it go by and felt something release in my chest that I hadn't fully recognized as tension until it wasn't there anymore. "You set that up weeks ago," he said. "I protected my work. I should have done that before it reached this point." "Yes," I said, "but I also should have stopped waiting for someone else to do it." He was quiet for a moment. Fair. The Meridian partnership closed 7 weeks later. The contract listed Hartwell Development Group as lead developer and Western Design Group as landscape architecture firm of record. My name on a county document that doesn't get edited. My sister-in-law stepped back from Hartwell event coordination. My mother-in-law called it a scheduling change. I didn't offer a different explanation. People sometimes ask what the most satisfying moment was. They expect me to say the screen switching, or the lead rep saying my name, or my husband standing in that room and confirming what the work was. Those were good moments. I won't pretend otherwise. But the one I come back to is earlier. It's sitting in my car in a parking garage, having just forwarded a 3-sentence email to my attorney, knowing that I had the original contract and the time-stamped files, and the technical knowledge that no one could manufacture in a weekend and no one could take from me in a presentation. I wasn't waiting to be acknowledged. I was building something they would eventually have to reckon with. 3 months after the showcase, the Meridian lead rep sent me a referral, a waterfront development project in Chattanooga, a developer who'd specifically asked about the team behind the Monroe. His note said, "I told them about the design work. About you." I saved that email in a folder labeled simply, Record. It keeps growing.